Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. I am joined by this illustrious team of folks that we work with every day to keep Polk County and the state of Florida safe, and I'm excited, and we're going to speak with you in just a couple of minutes. But before we do that, I want to tell you there's two topics today. Obviously, this is the main topic. And then there's one other topic that's not related to any of this. Let's talk about fentanyl. Fentanyl is the drug that is coming from Mexico through an open border, a porous border. And it's killing people all across the United States, DRT, dead right there. And what's important to understand is that it doesn't need to be this way, but since 2018, more than 250,000 people have died as a result of this horrible drug coming to us through the border. 250,000 people. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. If 250,000 people in this country were dying any other way, there would be major attention to that. Well, everyone that's died is someone's son, daughter, brother, sister, relative, mom, or dad. We care. Those of us here today really, really care. But it appears that that's fallen on deaf ears. It seems like every time I stand up here and talk about a fentanyl operation that we work with our colleagues, I'm saying it's the largest fentanyl seizure in the state of Florida. And once again, that's what I'm saying today. With the seizure of 14 kilos of fentanyl, this is the single largest seizure in the history of Polk County, and that's nothing to be proud of. However, we seized it because we're very proactive, because FDLE is simply the best, because Brian Haas, our state attorney, is simply outstanding and makes sure that dopers that are killing people are held accountable along with other criminals. Our state attorney general, Ashley Moody, says, look, nothing else matters if the people of Florida aren't safe and don't feel safe. So we actually began this investigation in August of 23. That's when we began to get information about this Mexican organized crime drug trafficking organization. And as we develop the information, you can well expect that the picture I'm about to show you includes 2 of the 4 of these arrests that we've made here are illegal, illegally in this country. That's right. They didn't come here to better themselves and their family. They came here to kill people in America with a deadly drug through a porous border that we need to seal off. Let me introduce you to this group. This is Sergio Garcia. He's 52. Let me tell you a little bit about Sergio Garcia. He served 23 years in the military, first with the Marines and retiring as a staff sergeant in the Army. Sergio Garcia considers himself, quote, one of the good guys. In fact, when he was delivering these 11 kilos of drugs on the last seizure of the operation, he stopped in Louisiana because he brought the drugs from California, which came across the border from Sinaloa, Mexico. He stopped at a rest area and talked to a Louisiana state trooper, and they talked about the Louisiana trooper's time and service and his service in the military, and the trooper even gave him a coin and a patch. All the while, he had 11 kilos of fentanyl in his car, unbeknownst to the trooper. Now, the other driver was Maria Guadalupe Garcia. She's 48. She's the wife of Sergio, and they were driving this drug and were to be paid $42,500 for bringing this load of drugs from Mexico to Eagle Lake, Florida, where it was to be sold to our undercover actors. Now, this is a husband and wife. She bragged that she was also retired out of the military. However, we have not been able to confirm that at this time. Then there's Maria Machua. When she showed up, she was the money person. She was to count the money. Well, she showed up with her 6-year-old child to do an 11-kilo deal. And then there's Pedro Rodriguez. He's 31. He's illegal. And he was the one that dropped Maria off, and he ran counter surveillance while she was in counting the undercover money. Now listen, folks. She counted this money in English, and she counted it in Spanish, and she counted it in English, and she counted it in Spanish, and then she counted it in English, and then she counted it in Spanish. And finally they said, this lady cannot get this right. She never did get the money count right, but hey, we were able to talk to her and convince her that the money is here, show us the dope. And they did. This all started with the first seizure where we seized 2 kilos of fentanyl in February of this year. In the second seizure, we, with undercover funds from SAFE and FDLE, and our Attorney General is going to speak more about that in just a minute. Whenever we were able to buy that kilo of cocaine, it was at Highway 98 North in Lakeland at a motel. And of course, I told you about the third delivery where we took the operation down was when they brought the 11 kilos to Eagle Lake at a house in Eagle Lake. Now listen, folks, all of this drug was not destined for Polk County, Florida. This operation occurred here simply because of the great work of my detectives, and I'm very proud of them. They are the best in this undercover world, working with some of the best of FDLE. Our partnership is remarkable. But what's frightening about this? If you look at this chart to the far right, you see the entire state of Florida is green. And then you have this orange cutout. The drugs we seized was enough in this last operation to kill every man, woman, and child with an overdose in the counties in orange. But I just didn't have my folks, who are very talented, color Florida green because we like green, even though we do, but because since January of 23, with FDLE and our partners in operations that we have done alone, not counting the others, and my colleague and friend, Sheriff Lima from Seminole County just did a big one, and just before that, my colleague and friend from Pinellas did a big operation. But just our operations since January of 23 and our seizures since January of 23 was enough fentanyl to overdose and kill every man, woman, and child in the state of Florida. That's how dangerous this drug is. The details I'm going to leave to our state colleagues, but I've got to say on behalf of all the people of this county and of this state, thank you to our Florida legislature and the visionary Governor DeSantis for making a lot of money available through our partnership with FDLE so that we can get to these big players. Because keep in mind, we're able to operate at the top levels now. And we're catching this drug before it gets down to the next layer of traffickers and the next layer of traffickers and the next layer of drug dealers that are poisoning our children. I couldn't be prouder than I am of all of the work. In addition to that, since 2023, there have been a lot of people die of fentanyl overdose in Polk County. But my deputies have saved 23 people with Narcan. So you can see this is a dangerous, dangerous problem. So at the end of the day, we're going to keep protecting the people of the state of Florida. and of Polk County.